High speeds, full suspension, a torque sensor, and even an app, all in a folding e-bike that goes for around $1,300. If that sounds impossible, stick around because we've got test data and the hands-on experience to back it up. Hey there, and welcome to Electric Bike Report. I'm John, and I'll be your host for this video, but before we jump in, a quick heads up. If this review helps you out, we'd love it if you used our affiliate link down below if or when you make a purchase, as it helps support our channel at no extra cost to you. And if you want more content like this, including our weekly news and entertainment show called The Weekly Recharge, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and don't forget to like, share, and drop us a comment. We always appreciate the support, and we love talking e-bikes with you. But all right, let's hop into the Heybike Mars 3.0. Right now, nearly every brand in the entry-level folding e-bike space is trying to build the best value bike under $1,500. And it makes sense. These bikes are compact, versatile, and usually pretty affordable. You can fold them up and stash them in the trunk of your car, toss them in your RV, or tuck them into a corner of the garage, and still get a bike that can haul cargo, tackle trails, or just cruise around town. That's exactly the market the Heybike Mars 3.0 is aiming for. It's part of Heybike's newly revamped X series, and the company claims it's the pinnacle of folding fat tire e-bikes. Now, bold claims are one thing, but let's take a look at what this bike actually offers. Starting off with its price, this bike offers tremendous value for its price point of right around $1,300. It's got a solid spec sheet that we'll run through shortly, but on top of some great basics, it even comes with plenty of extras like Bluetooth pairing with the Heybike app, tons of customization over assist levels, throttle behavior, and speed settings, and even small things like front and rear turn signals. On top of that, the Mars 3.0 features a powerful 750-watt rear hub motor with a peak output of 1,400 watts and a whopping 95 newton meters of torque. It's also got a torque sensor, which means the pedal assist feels responsive and extremely helpful, so it makes pedaling easy by reacting to how hard you push, not just whether you're moving the pedals. For comfort, you're getting full suspension. That's a 65mm suspension fork up front and a 30mm rear shock, which is uncommon at this price and especially rare for folding bikes. The result is a super smooth ride that's enjoyable whether you're cruising the streets or hitting rougher off-road paths. You also get a color-coded TFT display and 3 ways to start the bike. That's with a key card, a 4-digit PIN, or through the app. Powering all that is a 48-volt, 624-watt-hour battery with a claimed range of up to 65 miles. The bike offers 5 pedal assist levels, it's equipped with a half-twist throttle, and it can be unlocked to a Class 3 mode, giving you pedal assist up to 28 miles per hour, or even higher if you fully unlock it through the display. And then there's the weight capacity. This bike can carry up to 440 pounds. That's one of the highest we've seen in this category, and the 6061 aluminum alloy frame feels plenty sturdy in real-world use. The Mars 3.0 comes equipped with a Shimano Altus 8-speed drivetrain, giving you a solid range of gears for city streets or light climbs. Stopping power comes from hydraulic disc brakes with 180mm rotors, which is just one of many things we tested. It rolls on 20x4-inch fat tires, which add plenty of cushioning and grip, especially on loose terrain. You also get full coverage fenders, a sturdy rear cargo rack that can carry up to 100 pounds, and an electronic horn built right into the headlight housing. And for safety, the Mars 3.0 is TÜV certified and built to UL 2849 standards, so you've got peace of mind when it comes to the electrical system. The claimed weight of the bike is 70 pounds, and our test model came in just over that at 71.7 pounds with the 9-pound battery installed. So yeah, it's hard to deny that this bike offers a lot for the money. The spec sheet is one of the most robust we've seen for around $1,300, but that raises some big questions. Is this bike actually comfortable? Can it handle real hills and heavy loads? And how far will that battery really take you? We put the Mars 3.0 through our full lineup of tests, from speed, range, and climbing to braking and ride feel, to see if it lives up to the hype. Let's dive in and find out, but first let's quickly run through a demo of the Mars 3.0's folding process. As with many folding e-bikes, the Mars 3.0 has a hinged frame, folding pedals, and a telescoping and collapsible stem. Let's go ahead and run through the process of folding it. So first things first, I'm gonna fold up the pedals. I'll drop the seat post. Bring up the kickstand, open up the hinge. Now, a little bit stiff here, but not a big deal. At this point, I am going to go ahead and remove the battery. So that key twists and releases the lock mechanism there. And then there's a handle on the battery that you can just pull it out. That makes the bike quite a bit lighter. I'll set that down there. Next, go ahead and bring that around. And once we have this here, go ahead and fold down the stem. There we go. A little sticky. All right, and that's all you need. As you could see, that hinge was a little bit stiff, but Heybike actually sent us 2 models to test, and the other one was a little bit looser. But once it's all folded down, the bike measures about 40 inches long by 21 inches wide and 32.5 inches tall. Next, let's take a look at the Mars 3.0 stopping power, because going fast is great, but only if you can stop just as confidently. The Heybike Mars 3.0 comes with hydraulic disc brakes, which are a major upgrade from the mechanical disc brakes on the previous Mars 2.0. Here you're getting 2 piston calipers and 180mm rotors, which is solid for a folding e-bike in this price range. In our brake test, we ran 3 full power stops from 20 mph top speed and then averaged the results. The Mars 3.0 came to a complete stop in an average of 20 feet 8 inches. Now, for context, we've tested a bunch of similar folding e-bikes and the average was 19 feet 11 inches, but that includes a few outliers with overperforming brake setups. When we removed those, the adjusted average was, get this, exactly 20 feet 8 inches, matching the Mars's result. So performance-wise, this bike is right where it should be. The rotors seem to have made a bit of a difference here. They're slightly thicker than average. Heybike lists them at 2 millimeters, and we measured 1.9 millimeters, compared to the more typical 1.8 millimeters, and that extra thickness likely boosts heat dispersion and overall stopping force. In real-world use, the brakes felt strong and responsive, a little aggressive at times, but in a good way. Bottom line, the Mars 3.0 stops fast and confidently, which is exactly what we want to see. All right, let's talk speed, because the Mars 3.0 isn't exactly subtle in that department. Out of the box, it ships as a Class 2 e-bike, so both the throttle and pedal assist are capped at 20 miles per hour, but as we touched on earlier, Heybike claims it can reach 28 miles per hour in Class 3 mode, and if you dig into the settings, you can even bump that to over 30. Naturally, we had to test that out. On our local flat and paved shared use trail, we measured each of the 5 assist levels in both Class 2 and Class 3 modes. I also tested the bike's throttle acceleration, so let's go see how everything went, and we can talk about the results once we get back. All right, we are here for a Class 2 speed test on the Mars 3.0. So we're starting off with no pedal assist, and we're going kind of right between 9 and 9.5 miles per hour by the bike's display, maybe a little bit lower on the mobile app here, but there's always some discrepancy. So yeah, and that's with, like, I'd say a light to moderate level of effort. So let's go ahead and go up to eco mode. All right, definitely feel the motor kick in there. It's ramping up relatively gradually, but now one thing to point out is that there are preset speed limits in each of the assist levels, and those are customizable through the app, but we are just sticking with the standard limits here. So looks like in PAS 1, we're going kind of between 10.5 and 11 miles per hour. All right, let's go up to PAS 2. I'll go ahead and shift up a couple gears. Definitely picking up in speed quite a bit.
So cruising at around 14 miles per hour, maybe a little up towards 15 at times. Well, yeah, I think we're gonna kind of average around 15 and a half, or 14 and a half, sorry. Let's go ahead and go up to the next setting on your left. All right, so picking up definitely faster here, a noticeable difference. Now just kind of riding with a consistent level of pressure on the pedals. I'm not really feeling like the power fluctuate a whole lot. It's pretty consistent, but I have noticed that, you know, if I were to slow down and kind of start up again, then the motor does really adapt to how you pedal. But here in this setting, we are up right around, well, looks like around 17 miles per hour. Yep. All right, let's go up to PAS4. I'm gonna shift up a couple more gears. That is topping out at the drivetrain. So we're cruising right around 19 and a half with the pedal assist system here. All right, let's go ahead up to PAS5 and finish things off. All right, and that is carrying us up to kind of right around 21 and a half, maybe up toward 22 a little bit, but yeah, pretty consistent here. All right, let's turn around and do a Class 3 test. All right, we are back for a Class 3 speed test on the Mars 3.0. So I'm starting off with the lowest level pedal assist here, and you can see we're just starting off faster, you know, already. Looks to be landing right around 15 miles per hour, just a hair above in the lowest assist level here. So let's go ahead and go up to PAS2. So yeah, I mean, doesn't really feel any different power-wise or acceleration-wise. We're just kind of continuing to build here. I am going to shift up though, and we are landing, looks like kind of around between 19 and a half and 20 miles per hour in PAS2. And then let's go up to PAS3. You can hear the motor again, so I'm getting more power as we step up here to bring me up to a higher speed. So I'm maxed out on the drivetrain. Looks like we're gonna land kind of right around 22 miles per hour here in PAS3, just a hair over. Let's go up to PAS4. All right, wow, kind of screaming now, definitely taking off. I am having to pedal pretty quick to keep up with it at this point. So we're up to around 26 miles per hour, maybe just a hair under. And then let's finish things off in PAS5. And we will get, okay, yeah, already over the Class 3 limit. We're at 28 and a half. And that looks to be about as fast as we're gonna go. All right, let's go ahead and do a throttle acceleration test. All right, let's go ahead and do the last part of the test here, a throttle acceleration test from 0 to 20. We'll start in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, definitely a bit of the proverbial get up and go. Picking up quick, 17, 18, and 19, 20, and a little above. All right, let's head back to the studio.
All right, in Class 2 mode, without any pedal assist, the Mars topped out at 9.1 miles per hour. With PAS1, we hit 10.7, PAS2 brought us to 14.4, PAS3 was 16.9, PAS4 reached 19.5, and PAS5 pushed up to 21.6 miles per hour. Once we unlocked Class 3, things got noticeably faster. PAS1 started at 15.1 miles per hour, PAS2 hit 19.8, PAS3 took us to 22.2, PAS4 climbed to 25.9, and at PAS5 we maxed out at 28.5 miles per hour. Overall, the progression felt pretty smooth and intuitive, and we appreciated how much control each level offered over your speed, but it is worth pointing out that in many cases the bike exceeded its programmed limitations by around 1 to 2 miles per hour. Now, one thing to know, the throttle is tied to the pedal assist limit, at least by default. So if you unlock one, the other unlocks two. That pushed the throttle beyond Class 2 limits, which might be an issue in some areas where speed is restricted. Also, acceleration can feel a little punchy. The first time I hit the throttle, it actually caught me a bit off guard, but the good news is you can tone that down in the settings. And yes, we did test it fully unlocked. The top speed was right around 32 miles per hour. On a folding bike like this, that is pretty impressive. Bottom line, the Mars 3.0 is quick, powerful, and it gives you plenty of ways to fine-tune your ride. All right, next let's talk range, because all the motor power in the world doesn't matter if the bike can't go the distance. We ran 2 tests on the Heybike Mars 3.0 to see just how far it could travel on a full charge of its 624 watt-hour battery. First up was eco mode. We clocked a total of 61 miles. Now, quick note, there was a hiccup during the final stretch of that test. For the last 9 miles, the bike was accidentally set to class 3, which bumped up the speed and used a bit more power than it should have. But still, 61 miles is a solid result, and we think the bike definitely has the potential to reach Heybike's advertised maximum of 65 miles. But next, we cranked it up to max assist for our high power test, and the Mars made it 34.3 miles in turbo mode before the battery tapped out. That's well in line with the top folding e-bikes we've tested. For reference, our benchmark group averaged 59.8 miles in low power mode and 29.1 miles at max assist. So the Mars lands right in the sweet spot, and it has the potential to be a little above average under the right conditions. But here's the kicker. Most of those other bikes had bigger batteries. On average, they packed 667 watt hours compared to the Mars's 624. So when you consider that, the Mars 3.0 is actually more efficient than most. Breaking that down, we calculated that its motor used 10.2 watt hours per mile in eco mode and 18.2 in turbo. The test pool average was 11.2 and 22.9 respectively. So this bike is doing more with less. Now, one thing we did notice, the display's battery readout jumped around depending on how hard the motor was working. That made it tricky to know how much juice was left in real time. And we'd love to see that smoothed out with a future firmware update. Otherwise, charging is straightforward. With the included 2-amp charger, you're looking at around 6.5 hours for a full charge of the battery. And bottom line, the Mars 3.0 offers great range, especially considering its size and battery. It's efficient, reliable, and ready for the long haul. All right, let's take a look at the Mars 3.0's hill climbing ability, because let's be real, if a folding e-bike can't handle hills, it's gonna be a hard pass for a lot of riders. So to see how the Mars 3.0 stacked up, we took it to our official test hill called the Devil's Backbone. This is a long, steady incline with an 8% average grade over half a mile that's become our go-to for comparing bikes in a controlled real-world setting. Let's go take a look at how the Mars performed.
All right, we are out on the Heybike Mars 3.0 doing the throttle test, and we have set this to class 2. So again, doing the throttle, so the max speed's 20. It got up right about 19 before we hit this first steep section. It's kind of just chugging up along. It's gonna bottom out right at 17 miles per hour. We're climbing back up to speed, 18.8, 18.9. So again, right about that 19 miles per hour before we hit this turn. And we are now at 17.2, holding at 17. And it is going to bottom right about 16.8 miles per hour. Definitely going to have to tap the brakes, make the turn. We'll see what it gets to before this first checkpoint, the lamppost. We're at 15.6, 16.1. We're going to cross that right at 16.8 miles per hour. As far as motor noise goes, it's about average. I was actually expecting this to be a little louder given some of the higher speed capabilities on the bike, but it sounds really good. I'll let you listen to it here. So right there, as I pick up to about 17, 18 miles per hour, you do hear the whir of the motor a little bit more, but it's kind of right in average, what I would kind of hope for and expect. And so, you know, we're cruising along at 17.3. We'll see where this finishes up time-wise as we cross the finish at 16.9 miles per hour. Okay, we are back out on the Heybike Mars 3.0 now doing the pedal test in turbo, and it easily got up to 1920 before this first hill. I'm in 8th gear and starting out just kind of, you know, soft pedaling here. I'm going about 17.2, 17.1, and it's going to bottom out right about 17 miles an hour on this first section. Did not need to shift down at all. Picking speed back up to 18.5, 18.6 as we make this turn here. I'm going to go down to 7th gear, and we're at 16.8. Just kind of holding right there. It looks like we're going to bottom out right about 16.4, 16 and a half. Tap the brakes to make this turn. Didn't feel like I needed to downshift from 7th. And so as we approach this first checkpoint, the lamp post, still in 7th gear, and cross the right at 16.8 miles per hour. As far as the motor engagement goes, I'd say peppy. You know, as soon as I start pushing down, it goes. Gets me up to speed really quickly. Motor noise about the same as the throttle. I can hear it right about average. And I'm still continuing to basically soft pedal up this. So I'm not having to put much of my own watts into the pedals and just climbing nice and easily. I'll let you listen through this next section. So apologize for the little wind towards the top of the hill here, but we'll go check the score on this. I think it'll be pretty decent as we finish at 60.3 miles per hour.
All right, first up, throttle only. That's no pedaling, just pure motor power. The Mars 3.0 reached the top in 1 minute and 51 seconds, averaging 16.3 miles per hour. And then we ran the test again using turbo mode, the highest pedal assist level, and that run came in at 1 minute and 53 seconds with an average speed of 16 miles per hour. So right out of the gate, that tells us something important. The Mars climbs almost as well when pedaling as it does with its throttle because that motor is doing some serious work. For context, other folding e-bikes we've tested at the Devil's Backbone averaged about 1 minute and 56 seconds using throttle and 1 minute 57 with pedal assist. So the Mars actually outpaced the average by a few seconds in both cases. Now, compared to other 750 watt folding bikes we've tested here, which at this point in time is only a couple, it lands about mid-pack. On throttle, those bikes posted a 1 minute and 44 second average result, while on pedal assist, they average a time of 1 minute and 54 seconds. So the Mars 3.0 is average to slightly below in that narrower group. But with 95 Newton meters of torque and a 1,400 watt peak motor, the real world feel still impressed us. In my personal experience, the throttle was strong and smooth, and then when pedaling, I barely had to put in effort. So ultimately, no, this bike isn't a hill-crushing beast, but it's absolutely capable where it counts. Ride quality covers a bunch of elements that all add up to how a bike feels to ride. Let's go back out to the paths and go over some of the basics, and then I'll meet you back here to add a few more details.
All right, let's talk about ride quality here on the Mars 3.0. So, of course, this is a full suspension, fat tire, folding e-bike. A lot going on this bike, but altogether, I think it comes together pretty well. Now, there is just a single frame size for this bike, and at the time of filming, I do not know the recommended height range. That is not something that Heybike has shared with us, but the recommended height range for the previous version of the bike was 5'3" to 6'1", so I would assume that it would be relatively similar here. As far as the fit goes, I have the seat post maxed out here. There's about 8.5 inches of adjustment there. So I'm 5'11", and just where I'm pedaling right now, I do not have full leg extension. I probably would like to get the saddle up there a little bit higher personally, but I will say that the pedal assist system is like responsive enough to kind of counteract the fact that I don't have the maximum amount of efficiency there. And then on the reach side of things, the reach is definitely long, so my arms are pretty outstretched. My elbows are not completely locked, but it is definitely out there a ways. You do have some adjustability in your handlebar height, so there's actually around 5 inches of adjustment with the telescoping stem here. So I have that raised a little bit, just kind of in a comfortable position here. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm experiencing. Now, as far as the comfort of the ride goes, we've got a bunch of factors there working together, including the full suspension. So Heybike says that the fork up front should have 50 millimeters of travel, but the one on our test bike was around 65. So I am going to reach out and try to confirm what is standard. And then I measured about 30 millimeters of stroke with the rear suspension. So, that in combination with the super wide and cushy 4-inch fat tires just make for a very smooth ride overall. It's definitely a big upgrade over the previous version of this bike, so feels really good to ride for sure. And then just kind of as an added bonus of the tires up there, 20-inch are pretty standard in diameter for folding e-bikes, but the extra width here definitely keeps you feeling super stable and gives you plenty of grip for riding on both paved and unpaved surfaces. I think with the full suspension, you could maybe hit some slightly rougher off-road areas. We typically say relatively light off-roading for folding e-bikes, but yeah, this one might step that up just a hair. But in any case, then we have the 750 watt rear hub motor that we've talked about with a torque sensor and of course a bunch of different preset speed limits that are customizable. So, you get responsive pedal assist and you can really customize how fast the bike goes and, tie that in with the throttle speed if you want. You have a lot of control over how the bike behaves. So, no need to really demonstrate. You saw earlier in the speed test how fast things could go. Well, you know what? I actually am going to slow down and then I'm going to show you how it feels kind of from a dead stop. I'll bump up to the highest assist level and you can see that there's actually some serious pep here. This thing picks up pretty quick if you're pushing into the pedals. Again, responsive in how it delivers power and then carries you up to whatever maximum is dictated by the pedal assist level. So, all right, let's go ahead and head back to the studio and talk a little bit more, and then I'll see you back here again shortly to talk more about the app.
Overall, the Mars 3.0 felt solid and well put together. The newly redesigned frame gives it a noticeably sturdy, confidence-inspiring feel, especially for a folding bike in this price range. Comfort-wise, it also did well. The recommended height range is 4'11" to 6'2", and I landed near the top of that range. While the fit was generally good, I'd love to see a 0-degree stem in a future version of the bike, which would bring the handlebars a little bit closer and improve that upright, relaxed position. The suspension also performed well, although in case you couldn't hear it, ours was a little bit stiff and creaky. I confirmed with Heybike that the production model includes the same 65 millimeters of front travel that we had on our test bike here. Paired with the fat tires and rear shock, it soaked up most bumps with ease. That said, we've still got a couple of nitpicks. You need to leave the key in the battery to ride, which feels a little outdated, especially since the display already requires a pin for startup. One or the other would be plenty. But then on the plus side, customization is a huge strength of this bike. Between the app and the onboard display, you've got control over everything from torque sensitivity to top speed and throttle behavior. It's one of the more flexible setups we've seen in this category, especially at this price. So let's take a look at the app and the display menus before getting into our final thoughts.
All right, let's go ahead and walk you guys through the Heybike app here. So I have that pulled up. We are looking at the home screen here. So once you do connect a bike to the app, it will show you an image of the bike, as well as the battery charge percentage and odometer reading and the name of the bike, which you can change. There's also some data here, so you can actually turn the bike on and off here through the app. And if you do use this to turn the bike on, that does bypass the passcode requirement on the display that we will take a closer look at later on. But that is a cool, quick feature. You can also turn the lights on and off through the app here as well. And then you have just a summary of your recent ride data. But to go into all of the customization options here, there's the settings button here that takes you into a little bit of a closer look at the bike that you're paired with. This is where you can change the name of the bike. You can also update the firmware here with over-the-air updates, which is always very useful. You also have a cool feature here called riders that if you activate this allows you to pair multiple users with the bike so that you can have different profiles for each person connected to it. So if you go into that and you want to, add a new one, all you have to basically do is hit that and enter their email. They do have to be registered with Heybike before that will connect, but then you are good to go and you can switch between those profiles. And then to actually get into, the bulk of the profiles, go into this personalized tab. Now this does have the bike's top speed at the top of the screen here. We can see 28 miles per hour. That is adjustable with this slider here. And as you adjust that, that will change the top of the screen there. You also have units between metric and imperial. You can decide, let's talk about this first. So here at the bottom of this screen, you can choose the number of pedal assist settings that you have, and you can choose whether or not there is a 0 level, which means that the motor doesn't function in that mode. So you can have 0 to 3, 1 to 3, 0 to 5, or 1 to 5. And then if you're going through the bike's display, again, we'll look at that later on, you can actually have up to 9 settings through the display there. But anyway, so if you adjust the slider up here, that comes down here to the breakdown of all the 5 pedal assist levels. That's how many we have selected at the moment anyway. And then there are individual sliders for each of those settings that you can customize as you would like. That was set to 11, so I'll put it back. But as you adjust the slider, it does shift those automatically to sort of distribute the power levels, which is pretty cool. And then you also have over here other settings. So this is just the backlight for the display there, 3 settings for the brightness, and then I always have this apply personalization settings on so that anytime you make a change in the app, it is synced with the bike. But you can also here reset the trip distance and reset the overall bike to default settings, which is always helpful. But then going back to the main screen here, so I mentioned down here that we have my latest ride, which was just a quick 1.5 miles, and that's the ride data for that. So it does give you like a breakdown if you go in there of all of the rides that you can track with the app. And to do that, you go over here at the bottom to the ride panel. So that pulls up the GPS map, shows our location here, and you would hit this triangle button to start recording a ride. And then when you're done with it, just hit the red square there. And so we basically that just said that we didn't actually record anything since I didn't move. But there's also a navigation feature here. So if you go up to the search bar here, I tested this out by just looking at the closest grocery store down the road here. So if you find your destination, you hit the go button. This basically just pulls you over to whichever navigation app you typically use on your phone, so Apple or Google. I prefer Google, so then again this just kind of pulls us over here, and then it automatically does have us in the bike mode. So as we are looking at here, I'm on the bike path, and so that would primarily take me on the bike path except for a short section on the streets over here. So yeah, definitely working as it needs to. But then if you go back, so there's also a store tab that basically just shows you local bike shops, in case you need to go get service or something like that. And there's also a tab for your rider profile. And as you ride and accumulate miles and things, you can earn, medals, just kind of a little gamified thing. You have some account settings here. You can enter in your personal data, control over your password and all that sort of thing. All these sort of expected back-end features. There's a help button, and then you can reach out to Heybike directly as well. So again, that is, pretty simple, straightforward. A lot of good features there, but let's keep things moving. We'll head back to the studio, and then I will walk you guys through the display. All right, so first thing I wanted to show you is the pin requirement. So ours right now is just 0000, but we've also got the key card. So all you have to do is hold that up, and then you are good to go. Then the display becomes active. So of course we've got speedometer in the middle and color-coded pedal assist levels right below that. We've got a watt meter, we have our odometer, and then the battery charge percentage. And then to get into the settings menu, we just hold the up and down arrows. And we've got two menus here that you can access kind of right away. So initially we're looking at the display settings, but then if you hit power, that takes you over to this basic settings. Let's just run through those one at a time. So first thing is system unit between metric or imperial. You have a brightness setting, how long the bike will remain on if you don't turn it off. So right now that auto off is set to 5 minutes. Auto lamp, so that's basically like a sensor for the headlight system. So if it gets darker outside, those will automatically kick on. And then you have a couple options for the how the display shows the battery charge. The default is actually voltage, but you know, we definitely find that percent is easier and a little bit more friendly for most folks. You can exit from there if you want to, but let's bounce back up, go over to basic settings. A lot of these things, I actually consider this kind of advanced. I don't think you're gonna wanna mess with most of these. For example, like wheel size, you know, unless you're changing your tires to something that's vastly different, you don't really need to do that. Same with the battery, the voltage of the battery, the low battery setting, kind of same thing. You have some password settings there where you go in to change the PIN. Advanced settings, which we'll come back to in just a sec, but then factory settings is that like reset it to default, and then just some sort of back-end info. But if we go into advanced settings, then here is where you can change the bike's overall speed limit. So you can of course do that through the Heybike app that we talked about, but if you're adjusting it here, just be aware that it is in kilometers per hour at all times. And you have a current limit. That's another thing I wouldn't necessarily recommend changing unless you're familiar with that sort of thing. And auto cruise function that we actually reached out to Heybike to find out a little bit more information about, but we didn't get any info on that. You have the walk mode speed, which is currently 6 kilometers per hour. We have a location where you can change the number of pedal assist levels. So again, you can have some options for that in the app, but here you can actually go up to 9. And the app gives you options for 5 or 3, as you see there. And then pulls and motor, that's something else I'm not gonna mess with. Start mode is basically whether the throttle functions from a stop or whether the bike has to be moving. And then drive mode is whether the throttle, pedal assist system, or both will function. So right now in the default 2 setting, that is both throttle and pedal assist. We have PAS disc. I believe that's related to a cadence sensor. Again, something I wouldn't necessarily mess with. Start sensitivity is the basically how long of a delay there is when you apply pressure to the pedals. And start strength is where you adjust the acceleration force. So that really does it for the settings menu there. Let's go ahead and keep things moving.
All right, before we wrap things up fully, let's break down some quick pros and cons, because like every e-bike, the Mars 3.0 has its strengths and a few quirks. Starting with the good stuff though, at around $1,300, this thing is stacked with value. You're getting a 750 watt motor with a torque sensor, which means power that actually responds to how hard you're pedaling. It's peppy and responsive, and for riders who enjoy pedaling actively, it's a major upgrade over basic cadence setups. Comfort is also a standout. The full suspension system makes for a cushy ride, especially when paired with those 4-inch fat tires. Add in the Heybike app for tuning speed, throttle behavior, and assist levels, plus a color-coded TFT display with PIN and keycard security, and this is a feature-rich folding bike. You've also got front and rear turn signals and a 440-pound payload capacity, which is almost unheard of in this category. Now for the drawbacks though, you can't remove the battery key while riding, which is a bit inconvenient. The battery readout also fluctuates, making it tricky to gauge your remaining charge. And finally, when you unlock pedal assist past 20 miles per hour, the throttle speed jumps too, which can push it outside Class 2 legal limits. Independent control here would go a long way. All that said, for the price, this thing punches well above its weight class. One of the best parts of this job is watching brands level up, and with the Mars 3.0, that's exactly what Heybike has done. We've tested a lot of their bikes over the years, and while the features were always there, this one feels different. The Mars 3.0 isn't just loaded with value, it's refined, balanced, and genuinely fun to ride. As you can see throughout this review, it's fast, it's powerful, and it's built for real-world use. It performed great across all of our tests, whether we were checking top speed, climbing hills, testing its range, or slamming on the brakes. The full suspension and fat tires delivered a smooth, confident ride, and that 440-pound payload capacity makes it practical for everything from commuting to running errands or going on weekend adventures. What really sets this bike apart are the features: the torque sensor, color display, app connectivity, turn signals, and a highly customizable ride experience. And the $1,300 price tag, that makes all of that incredibly accessible. So if you're looking for a budget-friendly folding e-bike with power, speed, utility, and loads of fun, we'd venture to say that the Heybike Mars 3.0 might just be the bike for you. As a reminder, if this review helped you make your decision, we'd love it if you used our affiliate link down in the description box below. That's a simple way to support the channel, and it doesn't cost you anything. But do you have questions? Drop them in the comments. We're always happy to help. And be sure to let us know what you think of this bike. But thanks for taking a ride with me today. Again, I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and this is the Heybike Mars 3.0.